talking about this loss of agency that people have been feeling and the resulting rage, and also this whole tone that Trump has set for the nation of screw you, I got mine, I want it my way, the trucker tantrum and all these other tantrums, and the latest tantrums, which I think are frankly deadly, are on airplanes. For people who are immune compromised, they can choose not to go into restaurants, they can have stores delivered to them, but if somebody dies and they've got to go to a funeral, or if they've got to travel for work and they get on airplanes and somebody's not wearing a mask and they're actively spreading COVID, it could be just as deadly as if a terrorist set off a suicide vest. So what do we do? Well, the Flight Attendants Union is saying we need to put these people who assault flight attendants on a national no-fly list, whether it's the terrorist no-fly list that the Department of Homeland Security has, whether the airlines do it, or whether DHS does a separate one. Julio Rivera is with us, the editorial director of Reactionary Times, contributor to Newsmax, American Thinker, and townhall.com, reactionarytimes.com, and on Twitter, oh yeah, it's Julio. Hey, Julio, I get it. I understand that you think that terrorists on airplanes should not be put on a no-fly list. Do I have that right? No, not at all. Listen, this is how I want to read this, actually, because this comes from the Washington Post, of all places. But what it said was, before someone's placed on a no-fly list, the FBI, this is according to the FBI, there must be credible information demonstrating that the individual presents a threat of committing an act of terrorism with respect to an aircraft, the homeland, U.S. facilities or interests abroad, or is a threat of engaging or conducting a violent act of terrorism and is operationally capable of doing so. I think somebody who's going back and forth kind of in a catty way with a flight attendant about not wanting to wear their mask, or, sometimes people go too crazy. They might be in the middle of drinking a water and they just have the mask down for a moment. And if they're not actively taking a sip, you will get flight attendants. I fly a lot, and some of them are cattier than others. I don't think somebody like that should have the indignity, should have to suffer that to be put on a no-fly list, because there's a lot of other implications with that. If someone's on a no-fly list, it may prohibit them from getting a gun license. It may affect them on a background check with a job. This is where the slippery slope goes straight down. And next thing you know, this is, I think, a real a siege against individual liberties if they would take it that far over something as catty as wearing a mask.
So, number one, catty is typically an old male slur against women, which is most flight attendants. Let's get past that here.
Of course, you would point that out.
Yeah, the PC police here.
Yeah, that's not how I meant it.
I get it. But so you read the law, and I'm wondering how spreading a deadly disease to, and I guarantee you on every full airplane there are immune compromised people. How spreading a deadly disease in order
people get tested
how spreading a deadly disease on the tests aren't 100%, you know that. How spreading a deadly disease to the public on an airplane as an act, as a political statement, which is essentially the definition of terrorism, terrorizing a civilian population to achieve political ends. How that isn't terrorism, but let's to give you even a small amount of I'll cut you some slack on this one, Julio. Why shouldn't the airlines create their own no-fly list and simply say collectively, you do this to one of our employees, you are never again going to get on an airplane?
Well, that's a different set of rules. Listen, the airlines are private companies. If the private companies feel that they do not want to give service to certain individuals based on their prior behavior, I mean, it's no different than a bar, kind of blacklisting or banning somebody who generally comes in and acts a fool and creates a big disturbance. And if they don't want to serve that person anymore, that's their prerogative. And I think that, for the airlines to do it that way as well, that's not something I would necessarily be opposed to. But what are the thresholds? What would someone have to do to actually get on that list? Because I know, and I travel a lot. You know this, Tom. I mean, I live abroad. I'm always coming back and forth. I'm on airplanes, like dozens of times a year. I've seen flight attendants that have their own behavioral issue and have their own problem with trying to play God and be, you know, bossy, you know, displaying Karen-esque, behavior. You know, we don't want necessarily people to have to suffer as a result of that.
Yeah, no.
And I'm not attacking women.
No,
I'm not attacking women.
I get it. I'm sorry to pick on you. It's like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
But,
no, it's not. No, it's not.
So somebody walks into a bar, and assaults a bartender, beats them badly, harms them in some way. The bartender calls 911. The police come. They haul the person off. They get convicted of felony assault. They are now effectively, I mean, they're not on a no-fly list, but they can't own a gun. I mean, all those things that you said worry you about being on a no-fly list also apply to somebody who commits assault on a bar. So, can we agree that there needs to be a definitional boundary line here?
Yes.
Because there are some people on these. I mean, just in last week, you had a guy who tried to open the door of the plane because a friend of his was filming him on his phone, and they were trying to create a video that would go viral on TikTok.
Well, that guy's a maniac.
It was an anti-mask, anti-vax, crazy person who was trying to make a video that would promote anti-mask, anti-vaxism, and he literally put the entire plane at risk of instant death. And shouldn't that guy be on the no-fly list?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll give you that. That guy committed an act which would merit being put on a no-fly list. But one thing I will tell you is once the plane's in the air, those doors cannot open.
Oh, I know that. You know that, but the terrified passengers don't know that.
Of course, absolutely not. And in that instance, yes, somebody deserves to be placed on some kind of a list like that. But what I'm talking about is we've also seen other videos that have gone viral of people having disagreement with flight attendants and getting kicked off of the plane for not really doing much of anything other than just it was their pet peeve of that particular flight attendant, whether it was related to the mask, whether it was related to a child making noise and kicking a chair and an out of control child, or whatever the case may be. We always have incidents like that. I mean, I've been on a lot of flights in the last year where I've witnessed incidents going on between people back and forth. And generally it's about, people don't want to be told or spoken down to by flight attendants. Everybody understands that we're living in the state of the pandemic. At times people may either take off their masks to eat something and forget to put it back on or what have you. There's a threshold, and you mentioned that. What is the threshold? If there's a threshold where somebody actually gets physical, then yes, in those instances, or if somebody is, intentionally coughing on people or, trying to make a show out of it or something like that, then that's something where it's a little bit borderline. But we can't just go wholesale throwing everybody on a no-fly list because they had an argument with a flight attendant. And that's what I worry about, giving that much power to flight attendants.
Julio, I think you and I have achieved a rare moment of more or less agreement.
Solidarity, brother.
Solidarity, brother. Okay. Julio Rivera, reactionarytimes.com. Oh, yeah, it's Julio on Twitter. Julio, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. Stick around.